The morning traffic moved slowly, like it always did. Cars filled the road, horns sounded without meaning, and people looked ahead with tired eyes. On the side of the street, a woman rode an old bicycle. The bike was small and rusty, its paint faded by years of sun and rain. The chain made a soft clicking sound with every turn of the pedal. She leaned forward slightly, pushing with effort, her breath steady but heavy. A cloth bag hung from the handle, swinging gently. Inside were simple things. Lunch she had packed early that morning and a few papers she needed for work. Tied to the back of the bicycle was another bag, lighter but important. It held school books, neatly wrapped to keep them safe. The woman checked it once with her hand, just to be sure it was still secure. She wore plain clothes, clean but old. The sleeves had been stitched more than once. Her shoes were worn at the edges, yet polished carefully. She did not look at the cars beside her. Her eyes stayed on the road ahead. She had learned long ago that looking around only brought trouble. At a red light, traffic stopped. The woman slowed her bicycle and placed one foot on the ground. A group of people stood near the crossing, waiting to cross the road. Some were office workers, others students. A few of them noticed her bike and smiled in a way that was not kind. One young man laughed softly and nudged his friend. "Look at that," he said, not trying to hide his voice. "Still riding a bike in this heat." Another person raised a phone and pointed it toward her. "This is funny," they said. "People like this still exist." The woman heard them. She always did. Her face tightened for a moment, but she said nothing. She stared at the traffic light, waiting for it to change. Her hands gripped the handle more firmly. She had places to go and no time to waste on shame. A car stopped just a short distance away. It was dark, polished, and expensive. Most people noticed it at once, but the woman did not look in that direction. Inside the car sat a man in his 40s. His suit was well-fitted, his watch costly, but his expression was calm, almost distant. He had been staring out the window, lost in thought, until a noise outside caught his attention. He turned his head slightly and saw the woman on the bicycle. At first, it was just another face in traffic. Then he noticed the way people looked at her. He saw the phone raised, the quiet laughter, the quick judgment. His eyes narrowed, not in anger but in focus. The traffic light turned green. Cars started moving. The woman pushed off again, pedaling forward with effort. As she rode past, someone shouted something unkind. The words were sharp, meant to hurt. A few people laughed louder this time. She did not stop. She did not look back. Her back stayed straight as she rode on. From the car window, the man watched her disappear into the flow of the street. Something about the moment stayed with him. It was not just the cruelty of others. It was the way she carried herself through it. No anger, no tears, just movement. The car moved forward. The man leaned back in his seat, but his mind did not return to business calls or meetings. Instead, memories rose without warning. He remembered a different street years ago, a smaller one, a time when life was not easy and money was always short. He remembered his mother walking long distances because transport cost too much. He remembered her hands, rough from work, holding on to pride even when people looked down on her. He remembered how she never complained in front of him. The memory faded, but the feeling stayed. The woman on the bicycle reached a narrow road and turned in. The traffic noise softened. She slowed down near a small building and stopped. She rested one foot on the ground and took a deep breath. Her legs burned slightly, but she ignored it. Inside the building, she worked long hours for little pay. The job was honest but tiring. Before going in, she checked her phone. There was a message from her child, sent earlier. It was short and simple, asking if she had eaten. She smiled at the screen for a brief moment, then typed a quick reply. She did not mention the laughter or the words shouted at her. There was no need to pass that weight along. Inside, the day passed slowly. Her hands stayed busy. Her mind stayed focused. Still, the morning scene replayed itself in quiet moments. She wondered why people felt the need to hurt strangers. She wondered when riding a bicycle became something to mock. When her shift ended, the sun was already lowering. She walked back outside, wiped her hands on a cloth, and unlocked her bicycle. The street looked different in the evening light, softer, almost forgiving. Elsewhere in the city, the man sat in his office. Papers lay untouched on his desk. His assistant spoke about schedules and numbers, but he listened only halfway. His thoughts kept returning to the woman and her quiet strength. He asked a simple question, more to himself than anyone else. When did dignity become invisible? That evening, the woman rode home. The road uphill tested her legs again, but she kept going. At the top, she stopped for a moment and looked at the city below. Lights were beginning to appear, one by one. She adjusted the bag on the back of the bike and continued. Neither she nor the man knew it yet, but that brief moment on the street had set something in motion. A line had been crossed, not by cruelty, but by witness. And once seen, it could not be unseen. The day ended quietly, as most days did. But something had shifted, small and unseen, waiting for the right moment to grow. The next morning arrived with soft, pale light spilling across the streets. The woman woke before sunrise, as she did every day. Her apartment was small and plain, but it was clean. She stretched her arms and legs, feeling the familiar aches from yesterday's work and the constant effort of her daily routine. Her child was still asleep in the corner of the room, bundled under a thin blanket, their breathing soft and even. She moved quietly, careful not to wake them, and went to the small kitchen. Water boiled in a pot, and she prepared a simple breakfast. A few pieces of bread, some tea, and a boiled egg. It was enough for both of them, though she often went without to make sure her child had more. Once breakfast was ready, she woke her child gently. Together, they ate in silence. There was no need for words. The rhythm of the morning was familiar, almost comforting in its repetition. After eating, she packed a small bag for school, checking the books and notebooks. Each item had its place. Each item was necessary. There was no room for carelessness in their life. When she stepped outside with her child, the air was cool and fresh. The street was quiet at first, but soon the hum of traffic began to build. She adjusted the bag on the back of the bicycle and began pedaling, her child holding onto the handlebar in front of her for support. They moved slowly at first, then faster, as the street opened before them. People were already out. Some were walking to work, others waiting at bus stops. She kept her head down, focused on the road. Yet, the memory of yesterday's laughter and mockery lingered. She felt the weight of it, but she refused to let it affect her. She had learned that the world could be cruel, and that reacting only gave it power. Meanwhile, the millionaire sat in his office, looking out of a tall glass window. The city stretched below him, busy and alive. He could see the people moving like small figures, each with their own story. The events of the previous day stayed in his mind, not as a distraction, but as a quiet reminder. He had watched her, witnessed a judgment, and something about her had stayed with him. He thought about his own life, about the path he had taken to wealth and status. There had been moments of struggle, too, though different from hers. Yet, he remembered the feeling of being small in a big world, the desire to be seen not for what he owned, but for who he was. Her dignity, so quiet and firm, reminded him of that feeling. The woman arrived at the workplace. The day was long and physically demanding. She cleaned floors, sorted deliveries, and managed a small shop with care. Her movements were steady, precise, yet her mind was often elsewhere. She thought of her child, the schoolwork that needed attention, and the small challenges that piled up each day. Every task, no matter how small, carried importance. Every action had consequences. During lunch, she sat quietly in the corner, eating the food she had brought. A co-worker passed by and made a passing comment about her old bicycle. She ignored it. She had grown used to such remarks. They did not define her. She had learned that strength was quiet, not loud. It was in continuing despite the obstacles, in showing up even when others mocked her. In the evening, after work, she gathered her belongings and prepared to leave. The streets were busier now, filled with people heading home. She mounted her bicycle, her muscles tired but determined. As she rode, she kept an eye on the road ahead, carefully navigating potholes and crowded sidewalks. Each turn, each pedal was a small victory. Each movement forward was proof of her resilience. Somewhere along the way, a car slowed down near her. The millionaire had driven slowly, watching from a distance, careful not to draw attention. He observed the way she rode, the care she took with her child, the quiet determination in her eyes. He saw the same strength that had stayed with him in memory, the strength that came from surviving, from not letting the world break you even when it tried. She did not notice him. She never did. Her focus was on the path, on getting home safely, on protecting her child from the chaos of the city streets. But he noticed everything: the worn clothes, the careful handling of the bicycle, the small gestures of care and attention that told a story of hardship and perseverance. That evening, as she reached her modest apartment, she parked the bicycle carefully. She made sure the child was safe inside, then went to prepare dinner. The day ended in quiet routine, but the memory of the street, the laughter of strangers, and the silent witness in the car lingered. She did not know that someone had seen her, really seen her. Someone had watched not just a bicycle, not just a mockery, but her dignity, her care, her strength, and that someone had felt something shift inside. A reminder of what truly mattered, a reminder that kindness and respect were more important than wealth or status. The night grew quiet. The lights of the city twinkled softly through the window. The woman tucked her child into bed, kissed their forehead, and whispered a small promise that tomorrow would be another day to keep moving forward. She laid down herself, exhausted but ready, knowing that life demanded resilience and courage. She closed her eyes, unaware that her quiet bravery had already touched someone else in a way that would change both of their lives in the days to come. The morning air was crisp when the woman stepped outside again, her bicycle waiting patiently at the small corner of the building. The sun had not fully risen, but the city had begun to stir. People hurried along the sidewalks, some with coffee in hand, others with their thoughts lost in the day ahead. She adjusted the bag on the back of the bicycle and took a deep breath before starting her slow climb uphill, the familiar rhythm of pedaling setting her mind into motion. As she rode, she noticed the street felt busier than usual. Vendors were arranging their stalls, small shops opening their shutters. She waved to a neighbor who ran a tiny fruit stand. The neighbor smiled and waved back, recognizing her from past mornings, offering a sense of community amid the chaos. From a few streets away, the millionaire had parked his car. He had chosen the spot deliberately, close enough to see her, but not close enough to draw attention. He had been thinking all night about her, about the strength and dignity she had displayed, and something inside him had shifted. He felt the need to know more, not for profit or recognition, but simply to understand the story behind the quiet courage he had witnessed. The woman continued, unaware of the eyes following her. Her muscles ached slightly from the early ride, but she did not complain. She was used to this discomfort. Life had been teaching her endurance for years, and she had become almost fluent in it. Each pedal forward was a step toward survival, a small victory in a world that often seemed indifferent to her struggles. She reached the first crossroad, where a group of children were playing near a school entrance. One tripped over a loose stone, and she slowed to let them pass safely. Her attention to small details, her care for others even when she herself carried a heavy load, made her movements almost gentle despite the urgency of her journey. She did not realize that this small act was being noticed, quietly observed, and remembered. The millionaire stepped from his car and walked slowly, blending with the morning crowd. He watched her interact with the children, noticing the soft smile she offered and the patience in her actions. He saw not just a mother riding a bicycle, but a person carrying responsibility, care, and dignity all at once. Her life was full of small hardships, yet she moved through them with a calm strength that few possessed. He had spent much of his life surrounded by people who were polite, because they had to be, not because they cared. Here, in the open street, was someone whose actions came from the heart, unprompted and genuine. He felt a quiet admiration, one that made him realize that wealth and influence could not create such integrity. It was born from life itself, forged in resilience and quiet courage. The woman reached the narrow street that led to her workplace. She slowed down as she approached a small patch of uneven pavement, careful to keep her balance. The child held on steadily, trusting her guidance completely. As they passed an old building, a cat darted across the path, startling the child slightly. She steadied the handlebars, whispered a soft word of reassurance, and continued without hurry. Each moment, each small adjustment, spoke of a life lived with constant care, attention, and responsibility. The millionaire continued to follow from a distance. He was careful, almost invisible, allowing her to move freely without realizing she was being watched. He was learning her rhythm, seeing her patterns, understanding her world. With every block, he became more aware of how her strength was both visible and invisible. People might overlook her, mock her, or dismiss her, but in truth, she carried the weight of her life with remarkable poise. She stopped briefly to rest, leaning against a wall while her child adjusted a strap on the bag. She offered a warm smile to a passerby who nodded in greeting. She did not know that a man, a stranger of great means, stood a few steps back, observing quietly. He had no intention of startling her. He wanted to understand the life she lived, to feel the weight she carried without offering pity or intrusion. The rest of the ride to her workplace was steady, familiar, and deliberate. She arrived with the same care she had always taken, parking the bicycle with precision. Inside, she began her daily tasks, moving with efficiency, her hands skilled from years of practice. Yet even amidst the routine, the memory of the morning, the small interactions, the careful guidance of her child, the patient endurance of the ride, stayed with her, shaping the rhythm of her day. The millionaire returned to a safe distance outside. He did not approach immediately. He was not looking to create a spectacle or force a connection. Instead, he simply watched, allowing her to exist in her world without interference. He reflected on the rarity of what he had witnessed, the combination of humility, resilience, and care in one person. It was something he had not often seen, not even among people who had everything at their disposal. As the day unfolded, he found himself thinking about ways to reach out without disrupting her life. He wanted to do something meaningful, something respectful, not just a gesture that would fade into public spectacle. He considered the small acts that could make a real difference, not just for her, but for her child, and perhaps for others who live with similar struggles. Back inside, the woman continued her work, unaware of the silent observer nearby. She sorted deliveries, cleaned surfaces, and interacted with customers with a quiet grace. Every small action was deliberate, careful, and thoughtful. She did not rush unnecessarily, nor did she allow fatigue to affect the quality of her work. Her life demanded focus, and she gave it fully, without complaint. The morning faded into afternoon, and the city grew warmer. She paused briefly to drink water, wiping her hands carefully. Her attention returned to her tasks, to the needs of her workplace, and to the small responsibilities she carried every day. In the background, life moved on, noisy and busy, but she remained a steady point amid the chaos, a small center of care and diligence. The millionaire, meanwhile, considered the path ahead. He realized that witnessing her life had changed something within him. It was not about charity or recognition, but about understanding the humanity that could often be overlooked. Her strength, humility, and care were gifts in themselves, and he felt compelled to respond in a way that honored that. As the afternoon light softened, the woman prepared to leave for home. She packed her belongings, secured a bicycle, and checked the child's school bag one last time. The ride back was uphill and tiring, but she did not complain. She moved forward with determination, guided by necessity and love, unaware that her quiet courage had already made a profound impression on someone who had the means to make a real difference. She turned a corner and began the familiar climb, pedaling steadily. Each movement, each breath, was a testament to endurance. She adjusted the straps, corrected the balance, and continued, small victories marking every block she passed. The child clung to the handlebars with trust, eyes bright with curiosity and faith in the mother's guidance. The millionaire followed from a discreet distance, careful not to draw attention. He watched the way she navigated obstacles, managed her child's safety, and remained calm in a world that often seemed impatient and unkind. He understood, in a deeper way, the quiet strength it took to move through life under such constant pressure. As they disappeared down the street, he felt a quiet resolve forming within him. This was not a story to be told with fanfare or spectacle. It was a story to be honored with respect, dignity, and genuine care. He did not yet know how, but he knew that he could not ignore what he had witnessed. The city moved on around them, unaware of the silent interaction of lives, of the quiet admiration that had begun to form. Yet in that observation, in that attention, something meaningful had begun. A connection, unseen and unspoken, had taken root. It was the beginning of a story that would not be measured by wealth or public acclaim, but by the human capacity to recognize, respect, and act upon true courage and dignity. The morning was bright, and the city had already begun its familiar rhythm. People rushed through the streets. Cars honked impatiently, and the chatter of neighbors filled the air. The woman stepped outside with her bicycle, ready for another day of work. The routine was familiar, almost comforting in its predictability. She adjusted the small bag on the back, checked the straps, and began pedaling steadily uphill with her child holding the handlebars in front of her. This morning felt different, though she did not know why. Perhaps it was the sunlight falling on the streets, or the soft breeze that carried the smell of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. She smiled faintly as her child laughed at something the neighbor had shouted from a distance. It was a small moment, a reminder that life could hold gentle surprises even amidst struggle. The millionaire had been planning quietly for days. He had observed her, noted the challenges she faced, and thought about the best way to help without causing discomfort or embarrassment. He understood that dignity mattered more than spectacle. His approach needed to be subtle, respectful, and meaningful. He parked his car at a discreet distance, blending with the morning crowd. He watched her as she navigated the uneven pavement, carefully adjusting the bicycle for balance. Every action she took demonstrated resilience, patience, and quiet strength. Her care for her child was evident in every gesture, and he felt a deep admiration that went beyond mere curiosity. After a few moments, he decided it was time to approach. Not loudly, not with cameras or announcements, but simply as a human acknowledging another human. He walked slowly toward her, letting her see him approach naturally without startling her. She noticed a man walking steadily in her direction, but his demeanor was calm and unthreatening. There was no rush, no force in his steps. "Excuse me," he said softly, stopping a few feet away. "I hope I'm not disturbing you. I just want to say that I saw you yesterday and wanted to tell you something." She looked up, startled but curious. Her child glanced at the man as well, holding the handlebars more firmly. She nodded slowly. "Okay," she said, her voice cautious but polite. "I want to apologize for the way people treated you," he continued. "It was unfair, and I wanted you to know that someone noticed and someone cares." She blinked, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. No one had ever approached her like this before, not to mock, not to pity, but simply to acknowledge her courage. She felt a small warmth in her chest, a relief that someone could see her strength without judgment. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice soft. "People, they often don't understand. But thank you for saying that." He nodded. "I don't want to do anything that would make you uncomfortable, but I would like to offer some help, if you're willing to accept it." She hesitated, unsure how to respond. Her life had been built on independence and resilience. Accepting help felt strange, almost foreign. Yet there was something in his eyes, no judgment, no expectation, just respect. "Okay," she said finally, after a pause. "I will listen." He smiled gently. "I have arranged something for you, something that might make your daily life a little easier. I want to give you a new bicycle. Not just any bicycle, but one that is safe, comfortable, and reliable for both you and your child. No strings attached, just a gift from someone who admires your strength." Her eyes widened. She had never received a gift like this before. The thought of a new, sturdy bicycle, one that would not break down and would keep her child safe, brought tears to her eyes. She tried to hold them back, but a small smile appeared. "Really?" she whispered. "You would do this?" He nodded. "Yes. You deserve it. You work hard, you take care of your child, and you face life with dignity. I want to make one part of your day a little easier." They walked together to a nearby alley where the new bicycle was waiting. It was sturdy, shining, and perfectly adjusted for her height and weight, with a seat comfortable for both her and her child. The bags were ready to hold books, lunch, and whatever else she needed. Safety gear was included as well, carefully chosen to protect them. She ran her hands over the smooth frame, feeling the difference immediately. She lifted the child onto the seat and tested the pedals. The ride was easier, smoother, and safer than anything she had experienced before. The small victories of life, she realized, could feel overwhelming in their beauty when hardship had been constant. I don't know how to thank you," she said, voice shaking slightly. "This means more than I can say." He smiled, quietly pleased. "You don't need to say anything. Just take care of yourself and your child. That's enough." As they parted ways, she rode slowly down the street, adjusting to the new bicycle. Her child laughed with joy at the smooth ride, and she felt a sense of relief and happiness she had not known in years. The street, once a place of judgment and mockery, now felt lighter, brighter, and full of possibility. The millionaire watched from a distance, his heart full. He had not sought attention or praise, only a simple act of kindness that could change a life. In the quiet of the morning, he felt that small acts, given with respect and understanding, held more power than anything wealth could buy. The woman returned home that evening, the bicycle making the daily uphill climb easier than ever. Her child held on securely, laughing, while she pedaled steadily, feeling lighter and more capable. The gift was not just a bicycle. It was dignity restored, hope renewed, and a reminder that someone, somewhere, saw her strength and valued it. She parked the bicycle outside the small apartment, checking the locks and bags. She prepared a simple dinner, smiling as her child recounted the day's school events. For the first time in a long while, she felt the weight of the world ease just a little. The small act of recognition and kindness had reminded her that life could be compassionate, that people could be good without expecting anything in return. The millionaire returned to his office, quietly satisfied. He did not need recognition or applause. The joy and relief on the mother's face were enough. In that quiet morning, he had learned something about humanity, that noticing, respecting, and supporting others, even in small ways, could create change far beyond what he had imagined. That evening, the city lights twinkled softly as the woman tucked her child into bed. She whispered a small prayer of gratitude, her heart lighter and her hope renewed. The bicycle waited at the corner of the building, ready for tomorrow, a symbol of resilience, care, and unexpected kindness. She did not know it yet, but this act would ripple through her life in ways she could not foresee, shaping days of hope and possibility for both herself and her child. The morning was calm, and the city streets were slowly filling with life again. The woman stepped outside with her new bicycle, the smooth frame shining in the soft light. Her child clung to the handlebars in front of her, eyes bright with excitement. The ride, once difficult and exhausting, was now a small joy, a daily task made lighter and safer. She felt a sense of freedom she had not experienced in years. As they moved through the streets, people noticed the bicycle. Some paused, others smiled. It was not flashy or showy, just practical and strong. It carried them easily, carrying both her and her child with grace. For the first time, she could focus more on the journey than the struggle, allowing her to see the beauty in ordinary moments. The sunlight on the buildings, the laughter of children playing nearby, the soft sound of birds in the morning. The millionaire watched from a distance, giving her space. He did not approach directly this time, knowing that privacy and dignity mattered more than recognition. Seeing her ride with ease, seeing the small smiles exchanged with neighbors, he felt satisfaction in knowing that his quiet act of kindness had made a difference. It was not a story of wealth or status. It was a story of respect and humanity. She stopped briefly at a small market to pick up a few items for the day. The child helped, carefully handing coins to the vendor. The woman smiled, appreciating the child's growing sense of responsibility. Every small moment now felt lighter, more manageable, because the burden of the bicycle, once a constant struggle, had been lifted. The world seemed less harsh, less judging, and more open to small joys. Throughout the day, she noticed subtle changes in how people treated her. A neighbor offered a greeting with genuine warmth. A passerby smiled instead of staring. The street that once felt filled with judgment now felt a little more forgiving. She realized that her own confidence, strengthened by the simple act of being acknowledged and helped, was influencing the way others perceived her. Dignity, she discovered, could ripple outward. At home, she prepared a simple meal, her mind at ease for the first time in a long while. The child helped set the table, and their laughter filled the small apartment. For the first time in years, she felt a deep sense of hope. Life was still challenging, but small victories now shone brighter, offering encouragement to continue. The millionaire, meanwhile, reflected on what he had learned. Money and influence were tools, but they were meaningless without compassion and understanding. Watching someone live with resilience and integrity had reminded him that true wealth was measured in human connection, in noticing, respecting, and supporting those who carried life's burdens quietly and bravely. He made a small decision that day. He would continue to help, not in a way that drew attention, but in a manner that allowed the woman and her child to thrive independently. He arranged for small, thoughtful supports, safe routes for cycling, access to necessary supplies, and quiet mentorship to ensure that opportunities could reach them without diminishing their dignity. Each act was measured, intentional, and respectful, focused on empowering rather than creating dependence. The woman noticed small improvements in her daily life. The bicycle made the trip to work faster and less tiring. The child felt secure and happy, able to focus on schoolwork instead of fearing the dangers of the streets. Their routine, once a daily struggle, had transformed into a manageable rhythm. Even challenges that arose were met with renewed confidence, and a sense of hope began to replace the constant stress. Over time, the woman began to smile more openly, her laughter reaching her child and neighbors. Her resilience, once silent and unnoticed, now shone as a quiet example of courage and perseverance. People began to treat her with the respect that had always been due, responding to the dignity she carried rather than the hardship she endured. The millionaire continued to observe from a distance, ensuring that his support remained discreet. He did not seek recognition or fame, only the knowledge that his small actions had strengthened someone's ability to navigate life with confidence and hope. Each time he saw the woman riding smoothly with her child, he felt the quiet satisfaction that comes from seeing humanity honored in its simplest form. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the woman parked the bicycle outside the small apartment and checked the child inside. She felt a sense of peace, a rare calm that had been missing for years. The city lights glimmered softly, and the streets that once felt harsh now appeared full of possibility. The small victories of the day, the smooth ride, the child's laughter, the neighbor's greeting, reminded her that life could offer gentle joy even amidst ongoing challenges. The millionaire, sitting quietly in his office far away, reflected on the unseen bonds formed that morning. He realized that true impact is not measured in public attention, but in meaningful change in the lives of others. By recognizing dignity and offering support with respect, he had created ripples that would extend far beyond a single street, beyond a single morning, affecting the course of lives in subtle yet profound ways. The story, though simple, carried a lesson that would endure. Kindness, given with respect and understanding, could transform hardship into hope. A single act, thoughtful and discreet, had changed the rhythm of daily life for someone who had long been overlooked. And in that change, the quiet courage of a mother and the thoughtful action of a stranger intertwined, creating a narrative of humanity at its best. The woman went to bed that night feeling a lightness she had not known for years. Her child slept peacefully beside her, and she whispered a small prayer of gratitude. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, as life always did, but she felt ready. The bicycle waited at the corner of the building, a symbol of resilience, care, and the unexpected beauty of human connection. Life was still demanding, still uncertain, but it now held the promise of hope and possibility that could not be measured by struggle alone. In the quiet of the city, the millionaire smiled privately, knowing that the world could be changed one small act at a time, not with grand gestures or public praise, but with understanding, respect, and kindness. He had learned that true impact comes from noticing the unnoticed, valuing the unseen, and acting in ways that honor the dignity of others. And in that, both the mother and he discovered something priceless, a reminder that humanity, when recognized and respected, could illuminate even the hardest paths.